everyone. After posting my video about walk-ins and the immersion program several months ago, I have received numerous requests for further information and decided I would attempt to expand on what I had presented earlier. As always, a majority of the information I share is from my own higher guidance and memories, and obviously some from my own research. I'm very careful about putting information through my own filter before bringing it to you. For this topic, I was able to fill in some of the gaps in my own knowledge with two very trusted sources, Dolores Cannon and Cosmic Agency. I was also able to find several corroborating accounts of those who have had near-death experiences and have awakened in a pod. Dolores Cannon mentioned this too. Also, the Jeff Mara podcast and a couple of others. So I hope you can find some value to the information. This is one of my favorite topics. So the first and basic question, I'm going to need my glasses for this. Can you tell us more about the immersion program, what it is, and how it works? Well, so I will attempt to give as many details here as this little human brain can hold and remember. Okay. The immersion program used here for the Earth experience is an advanced extraterrestrial computerized technology that is used to give the ET the virtual experience of being a human, where they go into a sort of a pod or chamber, and their sensory perception signal is sent from the pod into a human body that has been previously prepared for this walk-in soul. Okay, so in this case, the immersion program or technology is used to allow an extraterrestrial soul to walk into a human body to complete a particular task or mission. Nearly every interstellar ET race has immersion technology and implements this to send their starseeds down to Earth. This is because there's no better way to learn about the Earth's 3D environment than from the ground level. Plus, the immersion technique guarantees them a safe trip back home, so they won't get caught in the reincarnational trap or cycle. It appears that there are two types of immersion. One is used for only a few hours, mostly for short trips or for entertainment. And this is done without immersing the person in a liquid. But what we'll mostly be discussing here is the fluid immersion, used for extended trips with a particular goal in mind. Now, it may be different for specific races, but the information I was able to receive is that for this long-term immersion, the pod will start out in a horizontal position and then is raised to a vertical position. And this is what we see in the movies, a sort of liquid-filled chamber with a naked ET body floating in it. Hey, this could be you. Before the immersion takes place, there is an agreement made, or a contract, created between the two souls, one in a human body and the other on a craft or a distant planet. The contract states that these two souls have agreed that the one in the human body will leave and go back to where they came from, source or wherever. And the soul in the immersion tank will take over that life of the one who's been inhabiting that human body. what happens is that an ET enters the chamber naked. This pod will isolate them from all sensory input except that coming directly from the computerized technology within the pod, which in a way substitutes as a sort of brain. The person is then immersed in a special liquid that contains everything the body's going to need to stay healthy during this suspended animation. Oxygen, stem cells, and other nutrients that will sustain and preserve their body for the duration of a human lifespan, or even for hundreds or thousands of years. And because third density time is different than time where the ET is immersed, the human walk-in could experience an entire lifetime, yet only a few years will have passed for the immersed person. The extraterrestrial in the pod will then breathe the liquid into their lungs, which I'm sure is not a pleasant feeling at first because they would feel like they're drowning. But this soon passes and they begin to breathe normally. This liquid will be constantly changed as needed throughout the duration of the immersion. The pod also provides electromagnetic stimulation to the muscles and internal organs, so they will not suffer from atrophy. Then the frequencies of the pod put the person to sleep, and their attention is diverted to the human body that has been prepared for this transfer of sensory information, sort of like switching the channel from one station to another, where their sensory signal is sent and directly imprinted upon the brain of that human body. And this body must have a corresponding frequency to that of the immersed soul. Then the computer specifically targets each neural group within the brain and diverts or alters the perception signal to that of the incoming soul. One of the cool things about coming to Earth as an immersed soul is that you have more control over when you come into the body rather than just at birth. Plus, you know exactly where you'll be going when the body dies. Your consciousness is then rerouted back to you, the immersed soul, and you won't have to go through all the same steps into the afterlife. You'll just wake up in your pod and go back to your normal ET life. When the soul incarnates from the source, there's more chance of becoming lost into the 3D reincarnation cycle or influenced by lower astral beings. And most starseeds probably don't want to take that chance. Although, I remember reading in one of Dolores Cannon's books, she said that when it comes to lower astral beings, starseeds have what she called a sort of Teflon coating that protects them from these entities. So when it's time for the immersed person to wake up, the nutrient liquid is drained, and the pod goes from the vertical position to the horizontal position. So the person is then put through another liquid bath, which cleans the body. Then the sensory perception signal is returned to the one in the pod, and they begin to wake up. If the person has been immersed for a long time, they sometimes have trouble breathing, and and might cough or even vomit. But that usually goes away in a few days. Well, that's about all I remember of the basics. So let's go to question 2. When the ET wakes up in the pod, will they have a memory of what they did in that life? Yes. When you wake up from your immersion, you will remember most everything that you lived, and then this all becomes a part of your expanded soul. Where are the immersion chambers kept? Oh yeah, this is something I didn't know, and I was able to find the answer on Cosmic Agency, where they have tons of this sort of amazing knowledge. The information that they had was that the pods are usually kept on the spacecraft or in special immersion stations on the home planet of the person and maintained by their family or friends. What are the differences for the starseed between coming into a human body at birth or coming in through immersion? And how would I know if I'm in immersion? Good question. For the starseed, not a lot of differences are usually noticed, yet there are a few possibilities. Immersed souls tend to remember more clearly than other starseeds. But this could be because the immersion pod allows for the person to adjust the memory setting from no memory to remembering it all and everything in between. It's mostly an inner knowing. But for myself, I kept having memories of the immersion experience, which would often come to me in dreams or in meditation, of being underwater and breathing it in, and then panicking, and then realizing I can breathe underwater. I can breathe it into my lungs and I'm okay. I recently had a lucid dream in which I saw myself standing underwater and breathing normally. Another thing immersed souls usually have in common is that they usually feel that the world is false. But if you really want to know more, or for sure if you're in immersion, you could also discover this through hypnosis or through out-of-body or astral travel. What happens to the human body if the ET gets ill or even dies in the pod? If the immersed person dies, the walk-in loses the connection and they die too. And this death will appear to others on Earth as an unexplained death. Sometimes there can also be a glitch in the computerized system, and the human might faint or even have seizures or some other anomalous reactions with no known cause. Yikes. Okay. Oh, so this next question is kind of the opposite of that. What if the walk-in in the 3D human body gets ill? Well, if the 3D body becomes ill, they will be brought aboard a craft where the ETs can make corrections to the body so the walk-in can continue life, the life that it came to play out. However, if the walk-in were to get really sick, they could ask to leave early. And if this is agreed upon, then the immersed person would just simply wake up. Okay. When can an extraterrestrial come into a human body through immersion? Well, there are a lot of options. The human body could begin life as a baby, occupied by an immersed soul who only wants the experience of being a baby or a small child. And then at a specific point, another immersed soul could come and walk into that body and continue that human life with all the memories that that human child has had so far. Or the immersed soul could walk into a body of any age, as long as the frequency of the human body corresponds to that of the immersed soul. And of course, these agreements are all made previous to the walk-in event, mostly even before the birth of the human body. Okay. Why would a human want to leave their body and give it over to an ET? Well, that's a good question, actually. Well, for numerous reasons. It depends on the individual. They might just want to go back home because they've experienced everything they chose to. Or sometimes if a human has had a deep emotional trauma, the soul will want to leave the body. And when it does, and if the body is still vital and healthy, another soul could choose to come in. However, if the human has gone through something horrible, their vibration could become lowered, giving another entity of a similar low vibration, like an astral being, the chance to come into that body and take over that life. Hey, this is another good reason to keep our frequency up, even if we've experienced trauma. And I know that's way easier said than done, of course. Is the immersion always pre-planned? Another good question. Well, there always has to be an agreement of sort, a plan made with the basic goals hoped for within this immersed life. However, when you enter the body, you will have forgotten all those plans. That's so you'll be able to be free to play the game. Okay. Can more than one immersed extraterrestrial soul inhabit one physical human body? Yeah, there can be 2 or more immersions at the same time. However, not the usual choice. But, well, I suppose this way, if one fails or dies, you'd always have access to the other. However, I'm sure it's rare, because if there's more than one person immersed into one body, this could cause problems like multiple personalities or schizophrenia. Probably not the best idea. How do the ETs know where their starseeds are on the planet? Does my galactic family know me? Your ET race recognizes you through your soul imprint or signature and knows where you are. Plus, all human walk-ins have implants identifying them as an ET soul. What will happen to those in immersion who have had the, will this affect the immersion? Very much. It will affect the soul signal connection, and the person could become lost, and this could cause an eventual death of the body. However, the ET person in immersion will not be affected and would just simply wake up. How can a physical body breathe liquid without drowning? Well, just as a baby in the womb. The baby in the womb breathes in the amniotic fluid. The immersion liquid is similar. And after initially inhaling the fluid, the body remembers how to breathe the liquid. Wow, guys, excellent questions. Thank you so much for reaching out. We're all here to learn together. And this is how we grow and evolve as souls. Until soon, I love you guys. Bye.